Hey guys, probably you have already heard about the advantage of the two bishops. Today we're gonna talk about when and why the two bishops are better, and we'll study a great example about how to win in a position where we have this strategic advantage. Keep watching. This position is from a game between Polugaevsky and Ostojic, two strong masters, in 1969. Here white has the two bishops, and the position is more or less open. We'll talk about general ideas for situations like this, and then we'll see what happens in the game. When we have the two bishops, we need to make sure the two bishops have long diagonals. We need to find targets or weaknesses to attack. That's what is going to happen in this game. The two bishops will create a lot of problems on the queen side, on these pawns. In some positions, it won't be so clear where we could be attacking because there are not clear weaknesses, and then very often we can start advancing some pawns to create weaknesses and attack those weaknesses later with the bishops. This time that won't be necessary. The two bishops are just creating too many problems here, and it will be enough to create a really tough position for black. Also in this position we need to mention the open file. Both sides will fight for this open file. So let's see what is going on here. Black is playing rook f8 and white is just trading on c8. Usually we don't want to trade on open file so our opponent doesn't get that file. However, Polugaevsky is trading this time because this is just going to be for a couple of moves. He's going to develop very quickly and play rook c1, and black won't have any strong plan in the next two moves to take advantage of the open file. That's why he traded. So the game continues here with g3, and the idea with this move is that Polugaevsky wants to bring the bishop over this long diagonal. After g3, black plays rook c7 and bishop a3. The knight goes to d7, improving the knight over here and also clearing the line for the bishop, which is going to be very well in this position. White can play here rook c1. The file is now divided, as we said, and black needs to trade here on c1. This is a very interesting position. Here the best move for black is knight c5, since white is taking the pawn on a7 and also the knight on d7 is attacked right now. However, in the game Ostojic is just going to play the move knight b6, and this is not so strong. He has some tactic ideas here. For example, if white plays a normal move, like say something like bishop g4, then there is this idea: bishop takes pawn and knight c4, getting the bishop on e3, and well, black is not worse here. That's one of the main ideas with this knight b6. However, in this position, as we were saying, knight c5 was a little better, and well, here one needs to play king c2 to control d3 very well, and planning something like b4, getting the pawn on a7. Black could be playing a5 to avoid this b4, and then we should play b3 here. That's very interesting. We are planning to play in the next moves a3 and then b4, so the knight has to go away from that nice square, and once the knight is gone, then we could be planning attack this pawn on the queen side. As we said, when we have the two bishops, a good way to take advantage of them is targeting weaknesses. So that plan could be very well. Notice we are saying b3 first, since very often if we try to play a3 planning b4, black can then play a4, stopping the advance b4, because then the pawn could be hanging with capture en passant. So that's the problem. That's why we need to play b3, but as we said, b3, a3, b4 seems to be good enough for white. They could be a little better. It's a long game, but some chances to win in that endgame. Well, the game continues, knight b6, but the main problem with this knight b6 is that now the knight cannot move because the pawn is hanging on a7, but also the pawn cannot move because then the knight is hanging on b6. So that's a very tricky situation, and white can take advantage of that. They are going to play the plan with a5, and then probably they are going to get a pawn up. Let's see how this continues. Polugaevsky is defending against this threat we mentioned by playing king c2. Notice bishop takes pawn doesn't make sense. now because they can play in between bishop takes b6, and then after pawn takes, bishop hanging here on b2. So after king c2, black plays king f8, improving the king, which is essential in the endgame. But then the idea, this idea of b3 and a4, and after king d8 a5. So this is going to be getting one pawn. Black plays here knight c8, and here we're going to lose the two bishops. We are going to trade one of those great bishops because there is a good reason to do it, and it is we're getting an extra pawn. So bishop takes knight, removing the defender here, and then bishop takes a7. This endgame is more or less simple for a master like Polugaeski. He has a pawn up in a bishop endgame. Black is playing e6, and then we improve the king. King d3, there's a trade, and then bishop b2. The plan in positions like this is just to create a passed pawn where you have the pawn majority. This time we have the pawn majority on the queen side, and improve your pieces as much as you can, like the king and the bishop, and maybe supporting the passed pawn you are creating. And that's what is going to happen in the next moves. So king c4, bishop c1, and then king b5, king c7, and then bishop b6, king d7, a6, pawn takes, king takes, and bishop d2, trying to stop this. However, we can just play here bishop a5. In a situation like this, if there is a trade of bishops, it's just winning immediately for white because the pawn endgame is too simple with a pawn up. So bishop a5 is keeping that in mind, and well, at this point, black is just resigning here. The problem is that in the next moves, when the bishop goes, say, bishop e3, we are playing b4, b5, b6, and b7. This is unstoppable. And maybe if black king is over here, we could be playing bishop b6, bishop a7, and this also winning more or less easily. Summing up, if you have the two bishops in open positions, put them in long diagonals, target the weaknesses your opponent might have. If your opponent does not have weaknesses, well, advance pawns and try to force some advance and create some weaknesses. The bishops are just better in these positions because they control more squares. If you have any question about the two bishops, or want to share your experience or a link with a game you played, feel free to write it in the comments. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Help my channel with some like if it was like that. Subscribe so you get notifications for my next videos. Never stop believing. See you in the next.